Yeah. So what made you start to, I guess, look into podcasting?
All right, we're gonna get into that now. That'll be the first thing we get into. Yo,
Okay.
what's good, everybody? Today is January the 21st, 2025. Most gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you, God, for another opportunity in prayer, God. We actually, God, thank you, God, just for the gift of life. We actually, God, that you would look on all the homeless, all the people that are displaced in California with the fires, everybody on the East Coast with these freezing temperatures. We actually, God, that you would just prove yourself as a keeper and a comforter during these trying times, oh God. And we actually got that you bless our viewers as well as my guests tonight and everything that they touch to do. We ask all these things in Jesus' name we pray, amen. Yo, what's good,
Okay.
everybody? Let me know what platform you guys are watching in, whether it be on Facebook or YouTube. And as you guys come on in, let's get into the comments, be a part of the show. You know, I tell you guys every week that you guys are pretty much what make the show. So let's make this an interactive, active, good conversation because it's not going to change the facts of what our reality is and that all the things that we're facing that we're dealing with. With that being said, I want to say happy born day to everybody that celebrated over the course of the last 2 weeks. Particularly my boy, homeboy Troy Davis, Terrell Mincy. I love you, girl. With a few other birthdays out there, but happy born day to everybody. Rabu Gary, another teammate of mine from high school. Happy born day to everybody that's celebrating. Everybody that celebrated anniversaries. I've seen a few anniversaries on my timeline this week and weekend too. So I'm asking that everybody just congratulate everybody. Stay safe with these temperatures. Like I said earlier, you know, in the prayer is freezing temperatures all up and down the whole East Coast. So be safe, be mindful of that if when you're out there on the road. Know that black ice is a real thing. So let's stay safe as possible. Travel as necessary. But other than that, try to stay warm and stay off these road conditions because it's not always you. It's not that you can't drive in it, but you have to worry about other people that's out there on the road as well. So let's be mindful of that. Um, with that being said, I think that covers everything. I'm gonna go ahead and get into tonight's guest, introducing him, young fella that I met many years ago. Our sons went to high school together, and they kind of graduated. I believe they graduated the same year together. Um, but got to know him from a distant level, but always has been a solid dude. He's been a big supporter of the show. I count on him and I appreciate him, and I told him before, but I want to tell him again, thank him publicly in front of you guys, just for being a part of the Marvin Bennett Jr. show experience, not just tonight, but always being a part of and interactive in the comments and voicing his opinions or whatever the case may be. So I had a last minute cancelization again this week. So I hit him up this afternoon and said, "Listen, man, let's talk about it." And you know, he's not running from no kind of smoke when it comes to different topics or whatever, because our opinions is just that, it's our opinions. So with that being said, I want to introduce my man Sam Blue. What's good, Sam?
Hey, how y'all doing tonight?
Some of the viewers, tell them a little bit about yourself, your background, and everything.
Just basically been here since about 2001. I was in the military, retired military, and decided it was better. We decided it was better to raise our son here, and we really enjoyed it. And that's when our sons met over at Millbrook.
Mhm.
Play ball. We always cross paths, at the games and stuff. So it's definitely Millbrook's definitely a tight knit community. Everybody knows everybody. Everybody is cordial, very diverse. Just an enjoyable experience. Most importantly, I think for our boys, everybody was involved, and so when my son graduated in 2014, went off to college, did a lot of traveling with him, but I was also just involved in the community to try to educate, people in the community about a lot of the bonds and bills, things going on at City Hall, to kind of like break it down so everybody can understand because, if you're not careful, these politicians will slide some verbiage in there, they'll slide something in there, and then at the end, they'll be able to say, well, you voted for it. So I just try to educate and make people self-aware and empower people to use the resources that are available. And you know uh, last not least, just enjoy life.
Yeah. And tell them about your show. We gonna tell them about that again at when we close out. But put your podcast info out there for people that want to tune in.
Oh, well, it's on Starman Productions. The host is Sergio Fevers, and he very talented guy. One of the There's a couple of people on the podcast, but I'm a regular, and there's a gentleman, Hawthorne James. He's also on there. He's a regular. A lot of people know him from the Five Heartbeats. He was called Red. He was the
Big
one
Red.
hanging people over
Big Red.
balconies.
Yeah.
Yeah, Big Red, but really good guy. And we do our podcast every Thursday at 7:30, and we just talk about things you talk about. So I'm glad that ours are on different days, so that way I'm able to, chime in on yours and just see the good things that you guys are doing.
No doubt, no doubt. And like I said, I appreciate the support and the feedback and everything. But right before we went live, you asked me a question like what made me even entertain or get into podcasting, period, in general. And to be honest, it started as a joke, real literally. I was just being funny, my sense of humor. And one day I put it on Facebook as a post and said, "Listen, if I did a talk show, would you guys support it? Or would you guys check it out or watch it?" And I couldn't believe how many people actually responded, like, "Yeah, man, do it. You got the personality for it. You got the you know mad people, you know a lot of people, you have engaged in conversations and things of that nature." So I said, you know what? I was just joking to be honest. But then I never forget, for me personally, I remember sitting in the living room one day with my mom and we were watching how sometimes you just having regular casual conversation and
Mhm.
the TV be on, but you're not really watching it. It's just background noise and things of that nature there. And I seen this name at the bottom of the screen, Ahmad Aubrey. And
Mhm.
I remember just, okay, I want to see when you know how it is with the news, they recycle the
Mhm.
stories over. And I said, well, I want to see this story from the beginning. It was just something about seeing that name on the bottom of the screen. And I went back and seen the story. And literally like the next day or so, I never seen his name again. It wasn't like national, like it just seemed like it was there that all of a sudden, then it was gone.
Yeah.
So that kind of bothered me. And then, doing due diligence and seeing all the circumstances around um, that it was bothering me. So I was already antsy. And at the same time, we were dealing with um actually just beginning to label coronavirus as coronavirus. Um, the lockdown started beginning to happen. Um, and then not Ahmad, George Floyd happened. And when George Floyd happened, it was like, you know what? Um, I thought about growing up and how we watched late night television, Arsenio Hall, to David Letterman, to whoever. And, these celebrities, they could come on here and talk about the different projects that they got on, or they could vent and just joke around or whatever. And I'm like, you know what? Right now, we're kind of at civil unrest, and there are a lot more people like us than there are celebrities. So why not create this platform where we would all come together while we in lockdown? We could all come together and vent. We might not be able to physically touch and hug each other, but we would come out here on create this platform and just air out our differences, talk about different things that the average person doesn't get the chance to be heard. Let's create a voice for that. And the very first show that we ever did was the same day as George Floyd's homegoing service. So, and here it is, 4.5 years later, we still going strong. So, I always say I thank the viewers and the people for supporting it and really just kind of in a jokingly fashion, just encouraging me to do it. And sometimes I'm still shocked and amazed that, here it is, like I said, 4 years later, we still going strong. So I'm very humbled by it. But that was literally the driving force behind it, just, trying to create a platform where people could come in, have different conversations, where we could joke together, we could cry together, we could learn together. And just all those different spectrums. Because I get that question a lot. Like, what is your show actually about? What do you guys talk about? And I'm like, I can't answer that because we talk about everything. I did a
Yeah.
show, one episode earlier on with a cousin of mine that did 16 years in Rikers Island in New York. So, we talked about life after time, getting reacclimated to society. We've had different addicts that recovered on the show. We did joking shows before. You know what I mean? I had
Yeah.
Dupree Kelly from Lords of the Underground, um, rap group from my hometown, Newark, who's actually a councilman in the city of Newark now. Redman been on the show. We were talking about the cannabis and getting it deschedulated and different things. So it's just a wide range of topics that we've covered, and I just feel fortunate enough to do it. Yeah. So we could go ahead and jump into it. Like I said, well, it all kind of kicked off for me uh Saturday night watching Dave Chappelle's monologue on SNL.
Mhm.
And he just showed again why he's like one of my favorites. Because just forget the skits, just the monologue itself. I like Dave because whether you agree with his points of view or his stances or not, he's gonna make you think. He's gonna invoke conversation. And
Yeah.
I love things like that. I love the George Carlin's before his time. Doesn't
Yeah.
matter whether it's political or religion. Like, I'm gonna challenge you to think. You know what I mean? And I like comedy like that, especially when you add comedy to that equation. And he got to talking about all that, just the upcoming inauguration and things of that nature there. Then, we had again, and I see I got my jersey. I had to dig deep in the closet. Congratulations to the Ohio State Buckeyes on winning the national championship last night. I'm not a fan. I just so happened to have the jersey, so I figured I'd wear it. But yeah, congratulations to them winning the first championship under this new playoff system. We've been a lot of takeaways from that, good and bad. All these things we talked a little bit about earlier. Just with this format is like it's almost like pro sports now from the aspect of we don't have to have the number one seed. We just have to make it to get in there
Yeah.
and make sure we get that extra 10, $20 million for going to a bowl game and making the playoffs or what have you. So it kind of changed the dynamics of the game. I think the hunger is not the same. I thought it was interesting that what was it? We had the number 7 versus the number 8 in the actual championship game. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? I thought that was kind of
Yeah.
ironic that a lot of the heavy hitters that was up top, they kind of melded in, and for whatever reason. But that's to taking nothing away from Michigan State. I mean, not Michigan, Ohio State. So congratulations to them again. But the big topic yesterday was, of course, the inauguration, and especially in our community, the whole Nelly and Snoop. So, I kind of wanted to hear your perspective on it. We could go back and forth. But what was your take on there if you had one at all?
Um, I listen to what Nelly said, and I definitely understand what he says. And I do like the analogy that he used with the military. Me being retired military, serving, being away at combat, certain things. There were definitely presidents I didn't particularly like that I served under, but I looked at myself as not fighting necessarily for them. I'm fighting for my family back home. I'm fighting for people that I care about.
Mm-hmm.
And I think when Nelly basically said, it doesn't matter who the president was, it was an opportunity to show out for the country, show
Mm-hmm.
out for the nation, show out for all those things. And what people don't understand is like, people will say, well, all money isn't good money. The thing is, a lot of people that perform, just like for the Super Bowl, they don't get paid a dollar,
Yeah.
but they get all this money in because basically when everybody watches them, they're like, oh man, I didn't even know he did that song, or I didn't know this. So next thing you know, they blow up on Spotify and Apple Music and iTunes and all those things. So it's definitely a benefit, but I feel Nelly, what he said, and I definitely understand it. He's one of those. He's like, you vote for who you vote for, And I do remember concerts, people are getting outraged, uh, as Chris Rock said, selective outrage over him when they announced it. But the thing is like Nelly has, I believe he's always been a supporter of Trump because at a couple of concerts they showed where he shouted out MAGA, and it's something I saw online and I was like, oh, okay, just like Waka Flocka does the same thing, because they're like, black folks as a community, we need to start looking at these policies that help us. We need to stop doing these things, not necessarily be about symbols and, symbolism and all these things that only, that only give us hope, but don't do nothing for us.
Mhm.
As far as Snoop, I think he basically just put his foot in his mouth, because the way he talked, and I watched the video again, and it's going viral everywhere where he was dogging everybody that's black that performed for Trump back in 2016. And next thing you know, he's up there as Snoop would say, tap dancing.
Mhm.
So I think, Nelly's been silent. He's one of those guys, he's about his bag. 50 said the same thing, he was invited to perform, but he said, he don't want to be like Kanye.
Mhm.
He was like, Kanye only can perform like in Japan and South Korea. So I think everybody has their own role, they have their own life. I'm not gonna sit there and judge or cancel somebody. Like, I'm a big fan of Eminem, from Detroit. And there's certain things that he may say that I don't necessarily agree with, but that doesn't negate the fact that he's a, he's a lyricist.
Mhm.
So Nelly, I got my first Air Force Ones because of him, because of his song.
Yeah.
Snoop, that was one of my first CDs, Doggy Style. I had cassette tapes before that,
Mhm.
but my first CD was Snoop Doggy Style.
Mhm.
So it's one of those things that, people can do what they want, but we shouldn't judge. Like, we have so many people in the black community that's throwing stones, and we live in glass houses.
Mhm. Yeah, and I somewhat agree. At first with the Nelly side of it, one, I've never been necessarily a fan of Nelly music. Like we did, I've never purposely intentionally put Nelly on growing up in New Jersey. Like we
Mhm.
might put his videos on what was it, BET After Dark, just to watch the videos, but
Yeah.
we wasn't never checking for. I can't tell you a Nelly bar. So that's that. But I respect him as a rapper. And my thing was, and whether I agree with it or not, like you said to your point, I don't I don't get caught up in like what the old folk used to tell us, or my coach used to tell us all the time. What you eat don't make me poop. Like, you know what I'm saying? It doesn't have that much bearing on me. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like you do that over there, like it doesn't affect my everyday life. And I think we kind of fragile sometimes, or it goes to show you. I have a saying that I use all the time: when people show you who they are, please believe them.
Yeah.
Stop saying for people for who they could potentially be and what you want them to be, and for who they are. And when I hear a lot of times, because we've seen it since November, oh yeah, I gotta cut this person off. I'm ending this relationship, family members, co-workers, best friends, and all this different kind of stuff. There, and it's like, to me, it's like, wow, just over who's in office, who's not in office, whatever the case may be, you're just showing me how fragile our relationship really was when I thought it
Yeah.
was solid, so to speak, in my opinion. You know what I mean? That you're willing to throw away all of that did just because, oh my God, like, no, I can't believe that you would say something like that, or you would do that, or you would go here and there. And it made me think about me and my best friend Rob. We always have conversations. And we talk about, what was it in I believe it was 88 or 89, somewhere around there, when the NFL had the strike. And we were football players in high school at that time. We had the dream of making it to the NFL and all that kind of stuff there. But then when I started learning how, as I'm getting older, I'm getting ready to graduate, we start learning what strikes are and when people go on protests and things of that nature when it comes to work-related environments. And that's when they had the movie about the dude that played for the Philadelphia Eagles. He was a part of that.
Okay.
that made the story and all that did Mark Wahlberg movie or
Yeah.
whatever. And my friend always, I was like, nah, man. I said, because they was fighting for something. So even if that was my one shot to make it to the NFL, I wouldn't have crossed that line. Because even
Mhm.
if I do cross that line and I stay on the team, now when when the main jokers come back, they gonna be looking at me kind of sideways. My man Rod, like, listen, hey Marv, that's my only shot, yo. I don't care what they said about. I'm taking my shot. This is the only chance that I have to make the NFL. And it might just be one game, it might be two games, but that's a memory I get to share with my children or things of that nature there. So I equated it to that when it came to Nelly and his situation because it's easy for us to say, you know what, I wouldn't have went and performed for Trump. You know why it's so easy to say that? Because you wasn't invited to.
Yeah.
It's easy to say what you would and wouldn't do when you're not faced with that reality. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? If Trump had came in, whether you like him or not, if that mug had said, "Listen, hey Marv, I want you to just come take a picture with me, and we gonna give you $500,000." Dude, I ain't gonna be there no more than 2 and out. I'm about to get that $500,000. Whether I want to be in a picture with him or not. For me,
Yeah.
you know what I could do with $500,000? Like,
Yeah.
so it's just different from that level or that standpoint to me. Like I never judge nobody else for the decisions that they make. Only thing I can be held accountable for is my decisions. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
To your point, like you said, when it comes to Snoop, hey, what's good, Jew? Hey, what's good, Pat? Um, Pat said, I got a comment here. Pat said, it seems like artists are trying to co-sign and keep their money flowing. We can't simply be followers of the rich and famous. If we follow, we are apt to be disappointed. Exactly. And like they always talk about it in that there too. Like when you hear the celebrities talk about the voting process and all that there, a lot of them will publicly say one thing, but you know who who they voting for? Whoever's gonna cut their taxes, whoever ain't gonna take half their millions. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? That's usually who they gonna vote for because that's in their best interest. Doesn't mean that is
Mhm.
in our best interest as fans. So those are two different things. And like Nelly said, this is something he was like, yo, I've never been invited to perform at none of the other presidents offered me a gig to come to
Mhm.
their inauguration and all that did. And then it was like, for me as a black person that feel like we need to take pride in ourselves and all those different kind of things, it's like, all right, so where was the same energy when Harris brought in Meg the Stallion to be up here twerking? I don't
Yeah.
want to see that as a black man. I don't want to see my daughter or my sister or my cousin up here twerking at the Democratic National Convention. Like, what was the uproar for that? Then we should like what happened to having more class and being associated
Yeah.
with these kind of things there. So I think a lot of times we pick and choose our battles, but we don't pick them. We don't pick them unbiased. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
To your point, like I said, I agree 100% when it comes to Snoop. And for the simple fact was because the energy that Snoop had, like you said, I'm the type of person that I don't have no problem with you making your stance. But once you double back and go exactly against what you said yourself, I'm looking at you sideways. That's whether it's family, that's whether it's celebrity, whether it's friends or not. If
Yeah.
you said that you against abortions, right? I don't want to see you down there secretly voting for abortions because I'm gonna look at you sideways.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And here it was. I'm waiting. I'm waiting. He went live because I remember seeing it. I follow Snoop on Instagram. He live. I'm just
Yeah.
waiting for the first jigaboo that crossed that line. Yo,
Yeah.
jigaboo. I'm waiting on you. I'm waiting on you. That's why when I posted it, I said, Snoop, are you still waiting? Because you talking about who gonna be the first. You were literally the first.
Yeah.
They got Snoop before they got Nelly. So where was that same energy? Why did you have such a change of heart? Like that was more was problematic with me. But like you said, I never heard anything about Nelly or no Nelly's political affiliation. So it didn't bother me as much for him because, like I said, that's that man's choice to make. He could do whatever he want to do. Would I have done it? I don't. It's easy for me to say no, nah, because I wasn't afforded that opportunity. But like I said, if you giving me $500,000 or $250,000, whatever, to do 20 minutes worth of songs, shoot, it's easy for us to say that when we're not faced with that position. But I'm getting that bag,
Yeah.
me personally. And guess what? When y'all talking about me behind my back, and can't believe that did. I'm gonna still be eating at the fine restaurant. I'm gonna be inviting you to come along with me, help me spend some of that money. We going on vacation or something, but I'm gonna get that money. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, they talk about me. They're not getting no steak. You talk about me, then hey, stay your butt at the house. I cut people off like a switch. Once they show their true colors.
Mhm,
But I just like, when we spoke before, we was talking about Chris Rock and the selective outrage,
mhm.
and it's like people
Hey,
act
say it
so
again.
offended. They was acting so offended, but then how come you aren't offended with the conditions that the black community live in?
Mhm,
How come you're not offended? You're offended about the wrong stuff. You're putting all your energy, all your smoke into something that don't even matter. All these folks, Nelly ain't thinking about us. Snoop ain't thinking about us. Soldier Boy already, he sounded off, on his rant. He was like, Kamala ain't never invited him to nothing. Barack ain't never invited him to nothing. Rick Ross said the same thing.
mhm,
All they did was invite mainstream. And, basically this one was basically a repeat of 2016 when Hillary Clinton had uh Jay-Z, Beyonce, had all the same people just about.
mhm.
And she got blew out. The thing is like black culture, black people are more than just twerking.
Yeah.
Black people are more than just gangster rap. Black people they play in orchestras, they play jazz, they sing blues, they sing country. We sing all types of things. We have so many more talents. But what bothers me is the only thing that they show the world is the twerk, is the stripper music,
Mhm,
is the things that really don't define all of black people. That's
mhm,
one of the reasons why I don't like the BET Awards no more, because all they play is gangster rap. What happened to all the black artists?
mhm,
There's about 14 up and coming country black artists that are like running things on the countryside.
mhm.
They didn't have one of them perform at the BETs.
Yeah.
So it's just one of those things. Like I wish the community, we would just focus on what really matters, which is our community. Stop
Mhm,
stop waiting for a dang on politician to tell us what our issues are. We're
yeah.
in the community. We know what we know what the issues are in the community.
Mhm. And to your point, like you said, it's selective. Like Chris said, that with the selective outrage, it's like, was that Chris or was that Marlon Wayne? I think it was Marlon. Well, Marlon was talking about the slap and all that. It's one of the two. But anyway, it's
Yeah,
the
yeah.
same thing, being selective in what you want to be outraged about. And to your point, it's like the same thing when well, we're gonna get to it. But even when I'm watching bits and pieces of the inauguration, now you mentioned it earlier. Here it is, and I know a lot of people don't rock with Kanye after no more. Y'all, yeah, Kanye done lost his mind. He this, he that, did. They took that man money, right? Now, I always called the dude Mr. AI himself because ever since I've always heard the name, but I've never put a face to the name until literally last year, and that's Elon Musk. But the very first time I ever seen him, I'm like, this dude does not look like a human being. This dude does not look real to me. Like he almost looked like a clone. Like he doesn't look natural. He doesn't look normal, so to speak. You know
Mhm.
what I mean? And for this man to get on stage yesterday and literally hit us with a "Hell Hitler," like yo, and the y'all cheering this man on, but you're gonna cancel Kanye when Kanye say Hitler is whatever he said about Hitler. You know what I mean? A role model, however he worded it. But this man is up there doing Hell Hitler. There are two of them doing inauguration. Not to mention, why is he so involved in our political system? And he's not even from here. He's from Germany. So
Well,
again,
well,
like you said,
he's actually from South Africa.
South, yeah, South, I know he's not from here.
Yeah, yeah. Well, he's a citizen here, but the thing is, a lot of people don't know his history. His father was real abusive to his mother.
Okay.
So she stole them basically. She took them from the father and they escaped to Canada. And then in
Okay.
Canada, they became, he basically started to grow up in Canada, got his citizenship. Then he moved to South Africa because he felt that he needed to network around his father's friends and kind of like learn the way that businessmen do.
Mhm.
And then, when he like did PayPal, he created X.com. It was one of the first digital banks, like how we have the online banking now.
Mhm.
X.com was the first digital bank. And then that revamped into PayPal. Then he sold his share of PayPal, $1.5 billion. And that's when he started to invest in Tesla with a few people. And then basically from that, he came to the US. About 6, 7 years later, he became a naturalized citizen, went through the process.
Mhm.
So I think with him, I don't think people dogged him out or tried to talk about him when he bought Twitter, but people don't understand, like, people with wealth, they don't play
Chit
chess.
chat.
I mean, checkers, they play chess.
Yeah, they got a different set of rules that we'll never
Yeah.
understand.
And what people don't understand is that Elon bought Twitter not because he wanted to have free speech. He bought Twitter because
It
he
was a move.
needed those millions of users.
Yeah, it was a power
Because
move.
what a lot of people didn't know, unless you was into AI and things like that, well, he had actually started a XAI company named after his little son. And what he needed was those users. So what he introduced last January is called Gronk AI in Twitter. And it pops up, and you can definitely use it, especially if you got like the Twitter, the X premium. But the thing is from January to this January, he bought Twitter for 44 billion dollars. He borrowed 30 million from the banks. He only paid 14 billion out of his pocket because if it fails, guess what? He can just write bankruptcy.
Mhm.
But the thing is that the purpose that he bought Twitter for was to get the users, and now his XAI, the Gronk, is worth $70 billion, twice the amount that he invested in Twitter. So that's what I tell people, like, instead of hating on people, instead of hating on the Obamas, the Clintons, the Musks, the Trumps, learn how they move. Learn how to put your family money into a trust like they do.
Yeah.
Learn how to do all these things instead of hating on them. Because, we have to learn as a community, there's three things that prevent us from having wealth: interest, excessive fines, and excessive fees. These overdraft fees, the high interest rate of these cars, everybody paying. Well, most people paying, if your credit ain't like a 680, you paying 20% plus. If you that bad, so those are the things we have to start empowering ourselves to learn how to do, is to eliminate those three things, but start learning. Learn about a trust. Learn about that stuff so all your money, all your family wealth that you're supposed to inherit isn't eaten up in probate. So I think that's why I pay attention to everybody. I listen to basically the whole inauguration. I listen to every inauguration, and I have my dang on notepad. I always have my notepad right here so I
Mhm.
can write, I can take my notes because I want to know what's coming down the pipeline.
Yeah, absolutely.
What can I use?
I was the same way, and I was talking to somebody about it earlier. Like, I don't, me personally, I'm the opposite. I don't normally watch the inauguration, but literally for me personally, after I finished my morning prayers yesterday, I felt it in my spirit. Hey, no, tune in. You know what I mean? Watch and just pay attention. Not that it might be informative, whatever, but spiritually, because I'm one of those ones that believe, like when the Bible talks about it, you have to pray for your leaders, not pray for just for the person that you voted for, because at the end of the day, he's still the face of this country, whether I agree with it or not. I deal with reality,
Yeah.
and that's the reality. He's the president right now. So I pray that God will lead, because when you look at the Bible again, you had Nebuchadnezzar's, you had Nimrods, you had evil people. The Bible is just not good of filled with godly people. You have
Yeah.
villains in the Bible as well. So everybody has a part to play. And what we do is, God, we pray that you would change his heart, that you would change his mind somewhere along the lines. You know what I'm saying? It
Yeah.
doesn't stop us from praying for these ones that he says, pray for your leaders and those that have rule over you. So it's not about whether it's almost like even with the parenting, Ephesians 6:1. children, honor your parents that your days may be long. It doesn't say honor your parents as long as you feel they're worthy of your honor.
Mhm.
You see what I'm saying? He tells you to honor your parents.
That's
So,
why so many people turn away from the church because, I look at my Facebook timeline and I
mm,
see all these ministers and deaconess and all these church leaders, church members, everybody living like they dang on saints. But then I see them talking hate about Trump. I'm like, that's the reason why our young kids don't want to be at church with the parents, because they see how we act and talk at home, and then they see how we act in church.
mm-hmm,
That's why the kids don't. We're the ones who is turning them away.
yeah,
So I sit there and I observe. I look at who the ops are. And the thing is like, we just can't talk about being something. You know, we we can say everything that we want. It's our actions that will actually show our true intent.
mm-hmm,
So I sit there and I wait back. My son, a lot of people in my family, I invest in crypto. And one of the things I hear, no taxing on crypto. Hey, those things, we all have different priorities. Just
mm-hmm,
because somebody is worried about a mortgage, that may be their priority.
mm-hmm,
Some people, their priority may be, how am I going to get groceries?
mm-hmm,
There was a time in my life where I remember going to the gas station, walking in there, asking for $2.71 on pump five. Now I'm blessed. I'm at a point where I don't even look at the price. I just pop my cap, put it in, and fill up.
mm-hmm,
But there's still people that's going in there with $1.25 they need on pump two.
mm-hmm,
So I think people need to have more empathy, because if somebody doesn't agree with what I say, or I may not agree with what they say, I still listen to them, because that's how we learn to have empathy.
absolutely.
And that's what's wrong in this time now. Everybody wants to be extreme. Nobody has empathy.
Mm-hmm,
They think because they go to church, they have empathy. Empathy is not about talking, it's about listening.
mm-hmm.
And that's what a lot of people don't understand in today's days.
Yeah, and I agree with you on that because my late bishop, we're coming up on the 5th year of when we lost him on January 24th. And I just been thinking about that, but that was one of the things that he instilled into us. Like when it came to being in the choir or being on the usher board or sing, playing an instrument or whatever the case may be, he would tell us, listen, either you're gonna live the life that you preach and sing about and be active, or you could just come be a lay member. Like you're not just gonna come in here and be a part of the choir just because. You're not just gonna be a
Mhm.
part of this auxiliary. We need to live the lives that we preach and sing about. And
Yeah.
that always stuck with me. And it's like, he would always tell us, you follow me as I follow Christ. When you don't see me following Christ anymore, then you stop following me. And a lot of
Yeah.
our spiritual leaders don't have that mindset. You know what I mean? We so caught up in the numbers. Oh no, we're gonna come in here, we're gonna plug you in this area of ministry, we're gonna plug you in that there. You ain't necessarily gotta change your lifestyle. Doesn't matter that you're shacking up with somebody, doesn't matter that you're alcoholic, it doesn't matter that you're a sex addict. You know what I mean? We're gonna it says the Bible says, come as you are. We'll work that out later. No, we need to be striving to live because, like you said, to your point, more than anybody else in that congregation, more than anybody in that pulpit, our kids are watching. Our nieces and nephews are watching us. Oh, daddy, a deacon, but daddy smoked more than Uncle Joe that don't even go to church.
Yeah.
So they paying attention to these different things there. Then when they become adults and pick up some of those same habits that they seen us practicing, we want to look at them sideways like, you don't need to be doing that. Why not? You did it all my life. You see what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
it's like we're not mindful of that when it comes to those type of things there. But no, there's been times where my niece and nephew want to ride with me. I'm like, oh boy. But this is another moment that I get to have an opportunity. So I'm not going to be listening to my 95 hip hop when they come in. I'm putting my snarky puppy on. I'm putting my, my smooth jazz on it, schooling them. Oh, come on, who is that? Different things of that nature there
Yeah.
because they're going to remember that as they get older as
Yeah.
opposed to we know me from church, but we listening to pop that and do this and do like, it's a time and place, and we have to hold ourselves accountable because whether they ever tell you that or not, our children, our youth are watching us. You know what I'm saying? Like you
They're
said,
like a sponge.
yeah. Even with going to the game and stuff, that's one reason. And I'm not saying it just because you here, but I remember that. I remember seeing you on the baseline with your camera.
Yep.
You see what I'm saying? So only imagine how that made Sam feel as opposed to what Dad said he wanted to come to the game, but he ain't come to the game. But he see you right there on the baseline holding the camera. Oh, he sold out. So let me up my game a little bit more. You know what I'm saying? Because
Yeah.
Dad is present. And I want Dad to be proud of me and things of that nature there. I always talk about it with me growing up playing football. There was the greatest feeling that I ever anticipated was making a great play as a quarterback and being able to look up in the stands and see my father clapping and cheering. Like that was like the goal. That was the goal.
Yeah.
We're not doing no scholarship, no nothing else. I want to be able to look up in the stands because you always say, "Hey, mom," and all that. There, no, I wanted to be able to give my father some props. You see what I'm saying? Because my father did what he did, worked every day just to keep a roof over our heads. You know what I mean? Just to keep food
Yeah.
in our belly. You know what I'm saying? We ain't always had the best everything, but we never went without. You know what I mean? And that was a
Mhm.
testament of who he was and his dedication. So, I wanna show you how much I appreciate what you did. It ain't
Yeah.
about like you said, it ain't about the labels on the clothes. It's not about the car that we drive or whatever else. You make sure that we ain't one for nothing. There were times when my father would walk to work so that my mom could have the car to take us where we needed to go. You see what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So I remember little things like that then. Like you say, we're watching. Even when we don't think that we're watching these different things. So I think that's important for us to take into consideration, man.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
Now, and the other thing that was so ironic to me too, and it started because I had said I was starting to talk about it on the show 2 weeks ago. I said, "Nah, wait." Then we wound up canceling the show last week. But I was saying even then, like to me, like no, despite how you may feel, I just thought it was super ironic that this person that most people are considering the most racist person president ever, for him to be inaugurated on Martin Luther King Day, the man that stood for peace and equality, so to speak. Like,
Yeah.
did you find any irony in that? Like, how did you feel about that? Then,
Honestly, I really didn't it didn't pass my mind like it was, e everybody know every year January 20th is inauguration. I
mm-hmm.
mean, every election, January 20th is an inauguration. So I really didn't think about that stuff. Like I don't focus. One thing in my old age, that I begin to stop doing is stop worrying about the smoke and mirrors.
Yeah.
Stop worrying about the distractions. To
Mm-hmm.
me, everybody talking about, oh, we're going to do a blackout for the inauguration, and I see some of those folks struggling. I'm like, you need to chime in so you can take notes and look at some of these policies that you and your family can use. So I pay attention to that. Now, don't get me wrong. I used to do the 5:30 a.m., especially when I was in the military station all over the place. I used to do the memorial walk for MLK, the MLK breakfast and things like that. But I know when I think for the last four elections, I sat there like I don't think I turned in last night till about 3:30 because every time that joker went to another event, he gave another thing and he signed a few more. I think he signed like 80 executive orders last night.
Yeah, I think they
You
said
know,
close to 90. Yeah.
yeah, so every place he went, there was a stack that he was signing. He was explaining what they was and all that. And I had my notepad.
Mm-hmm.
I know there's 5 things right there I know me or someone in my family is gonna be able to use, and the next time I talk to them, Imma share it. Imma say, "Hey, keep this go ahead and prepare for this. It's coming down the pipeline." That's how we empower ourselves.
Yeah, I agree because I thought that was very interesting too. Um, like like I said, we talk about MLK. It was ironic to me, and I paid attention. Well, I noticed it. Like I said, I didn't really get vested in it, but it made my spiritual senses go off, so to speak, because I believe that it was just the telling of what's to come. as far as what we're going to see. I don't know
Yeah.
exactly what we're going to see, but it's going to be the opposite of both extremes. 2025 is going to be something like we never had before. And I was just literally having this conversation. It is one thing, is a reason I feel like God has me praying for certain things in this particular season. But I was telling him, I said, listen, I'm not trying to be no astrologer. I'm not trying to be no prophet or whatever else. I accept who I am in God. All I know is what I feel or what I sense. And I said, when coronavirus, as crazy as it was, and as many people that we lost, and all that did, how chaotic it was, that's gonna be like a PG movie about what's we gonna experience next.
Yeah.
Same way smallpox was what it was in this day and time. You see what I'm saying? Like, when the last time you heard of somebody get smallpox or the measles or whatever? Like, we're
Yeah.
gonna look at coronavirus, as drastic as it was, like a footnote compared to what's coming down the pipeline. So
Yeah.
we have to be mindful of that. We have to stay prayed up. We have to love on each other while we yet can. You know what I mean? And cherish the moments that we can while we can. Stop sweating all the small stuff. Stop sweating all the beefs. And well, you like, I like vanilla and you like chocolate. Like, what are we really doing? I'm
Yeah.
happy. You know, it's almost like I look at it like when like, you know, back in the day, you know, it was always about going to Big Mama house or our grandparents' house for the holidays. Now, you always got those two uncles or uncle and aunt that don't get along, whatever the case may be. But they parents, they happy to see all their kids under one roof, whether they
Yeah.
arguing, whether they talking trash to one another, whatever.
Yeah.
It's about the atmosphere. You know what I mean? And I always
Yeah.
associate to the same thing when when I think about Thanksgiving, the food is the food, right? But it's different if you have to work on Thanksgiving and somebody brings you a plate.
Yeah. Definitely.
You got the same food, but it's about the atmosphere. It's about being amongst one another, the fellowship,
Yeah.
being amongst your family and your friends and things of that nature there. So those things, we got to get back to the basics of that. You know what I mean? And it's like, it seems like so much now that we had nothing else but that back in the 50s and the 60s and the 70s, because, you know, we had a lot of people. Now that everybody has their money, it seems to be more selfish. And when we look at our community as a whole, like you said, especially in the Black community, everybody's doing so much better. So everybody's off into doing their own thing. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
I don't even think it's that. I think it's social media
Oh,
because
by far, that's a big part of it too. It's so many different
yeah,
components. Yeah.
yeah, because I remember going to my first class reunion. And a lot of people weren't really into it yet. You know, I think I had just created like a Facebook account or something. Matter of fact, I didn't. I think I created my first Facebook account like in 2009. You know, I don't know when it actually came, but when I did my first class reunion in 2001, everybody was. I mean, it was a whole lot of people that you know came and they everybody was talking, enjoying, catching up. The problem why we don't do reunions, family reunions, all those things, because everybody put everything on social media. So, like, if I walk up to somebody I haven't physically seen,
Mm-hmm.
like, I haven't seen you physically
Yeah, it's been
since
some
the
years.
Milbrook days,
Yeah.
like, literally since the Milbrook days. So, but we connected on social media. So
Mm-hmm.
when you come up to me and you're like, "Hey, you know, um, yeah, this got going on." Most of the time people hear, "Oh yeah, I saw that on your Facebook." "Oh, I
Mm-hmm.
saw that." Like, it's no catching up no more.
Yeah.
And that's why you got all these families. Families are still large.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody ain't doing well. You know, it's most families have a mixture, and but they don't go to the reunions. Everybody is complaining about only time we get together is during funerals.
Exactly. But we don't do nothing to change it.
And then right when the funeral ends, what do everybody say? "Oh, well, we got to
We gotta
promise
do better.
that we're going to
Mhm.
keep doing this." And guess what happened? Nobody sees nobody else to the next funeral because we stay up to date on Facebook, on Twitter, on all this social media. And then you have some people that you know, they post every aspect. Now, don't get me wrong. When I got on social media, it was all about my son.
Mhm.
Like, I was recruiting for that joker because I'm like, "I'm not paying for your college,
Yeah.
so what can I do to help you get a scholarship?" That's why, when you mentioned me always being on the baseline at the basketball games, at the football games, where was I at? Not in the bleachers. I was on the sidelines.
Absolutely.
And the one good thing about that is that I never had to pay to go to a game, because
Hmm.
every time I went to one of the schools, they see me coming in with that big
Oh
camera
yeah,
lens.
yeah, yeah. Come on, man.
They assumed that I was the media, and
Uh,
they would hand me a dang on media pass, and I would be right there on the sideline. I remember when Georgia came to see one of my son's teammates, Keith Marshall.
you Mark, yeah.
Clemson, yeah, Clemson and Georgia Tech was on the sideline.
Hmm.
And I rolled my camera over there, and they don't know who I am. I was sitting there like, oh man, number 82. Act like I'm on the phone, ain't nobody on there. Man, 82 got a what GPA? A 4.3?
Uh-huh.
Oh, and he's, doing this,
On
and
top
next thing,
sports, yeah.
yeah, next thing I know, I look at the corner of my eye and they writing down a note. And then the next week, my son's up there saying, Dad, Clemson called Coach M score about me. I said that was my main thing. So when I
Yeah.
got on social media for my son, if you look back at my Instagram history, all that stuff, it was
Wow.
all after every game. And then I used to send a lot of parents photos, because I didn't just take pictures of my son. I was trying to help everybody come up, because I know, nobody was going to take his scholarship. So I just try to empower other people, and that's basically what I try to do. I just try to empower people, and I try to promote people to stop worrying about the smoke. We got so much going on in our lives. That's what we need to stay focused on.
Hmm. Pat said it was just a celebrated day. January 15th of the King's birthday. It did feel ironic though. It was good, Shawan. Shawan said, that's true. Social media is now the class and family reunions. Social media is free and most people don't want to pay for a family reunion. Why
Yeah.
pay for a family or class reunion when I could see you free online? That is the new mindset. And it really is. It don't take all of that. I got to take off work. We got to travel there. Got to get a hotel room, all that. So it's like, but we used to didn't think about those things. And I remember having a conversation with one of my young homegirls, and she was like asking me, what do you think that was a difference in, in the late 80s, coming up in the late 80s, early 90s versus like our generation in the 2000s and stuff. I said, you know what? I said the biggest thing is we have all these great stories that y'all can't relate to because we didn't have cell phones. You know what I mean? We didn't have the distraction, to your point, of social media. When I would go to the comedy club before black comedy was a thing, this is way before Def Jam comedy. This is way before Comic View, all these different things. In Orange, New Jersey, we had this place called the Peppermint Lounge. Now, every Thursday night, we got to see Bill Bellamy. We got to see Melanie Camacho. We got to see all the locals. You got Queen Latifah in here.
Yeah.
Like, we all in here together. So every Thursday night, the TK Kirklands, like, Bernie Mac wasn't even around yet. So we getting to see
Yeah.
all these people before Showtime had the Apollo, all that there. We getting to see these people in real time. It's like, yo, man, listen, man, it was this dude there last night named Robin Harris show. Oh man, I can't wait to this dude need to be in a movie. You know what I mean? We enjoyed the moment that we was living in because we wasn't so distracted about taking pictures, checking our timelines. We had to be in the moment. Because if you're not enjoying it in real time in the moment, what's the point of you being there?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I'm looking at church services now, and it kills me how, you go to church for whatever reason, but you got everybody with a phone out recording. The musicians and the singers and the preachers, people in the pulpit got their phone out recorded. It's like,
All they want to do is show people that they there, that they, and you know what the biggest treasure I think in the black home is? A photo album, an
mhm.
actual physical photo album.
I think
Anytime
so
you
too.
go to a relative and they break out that photo album, it's everybody stops. It's something about physically holding, flipping through those pages. And that's one of the things we have to get back at. That's like, when I did all those photos at Millbrook, I made a photo album for basketball, a photo album for football,
Mhm.
and had people sign, and that was my thing because I realized how important it is to have something you can physically hold.
Mhm.
You can physically hold that. Now, because of these dang on things with uh 500 gigabytes of memory, I probably got about 5,000 pictures
Mhm.
on here that I don't even haven't even looked at them again. It's just too much. It's too much power.
Mhm.
It's too much power in this thing. That's why I have this thing set on my phone. It starts at 10 p.m. and it cuts off the ringer, everything. The screen goes to
Do
grayscale.
not
No,
disturb.
no notifications until 6:30 a.m.
Mhm.
Because before it used to, it was a time where 1 a.m. it chime a notification. I turn over and look at it. Next thing you know, I'm up. So, I had to learn how to, stop being a slave to my phone.
Mhm.
And I tell people the worst punishment you can give a dang on child of your house is two things: taking that cell phone
And cutting that
or
Wi-Fi off.
changing the password on the Wi-Fi.
Cut that
Oh, they
Wi-Fi
they will have to, but you got nowadays you got to be careful. It's
Uh-huh.
kids up there killing their parents for doing that.
Yeah. It's
So and that's the crazy part about it. It's so addictive that kids are killing their parents over changing a Wi-Fi password or taking a phone.
that's crazy. We wouldn't have even thought of anything like that. And it's funny that you even talked about the pictures because I'm one of those people. My ex-wife used to always tease me like, why do you still have that? Like I'm one of the people I like to keep because I feel like God forbid when people get older, God that's if God allows you to live a long age for life. I always say the only two things that you have, God forbid you get amnesia or Alzheimer's disease, and it's like only thing you have in life to me, in my personal opinion, is memories and pictures. Even when you
Yeah,
can't remember it, you can look at a picture, and if you can't talk no more, it might trigger something that'll take
yeah,
you back to when that picture was taken or the moment that you were in that you hadn't thought about in 30, 40 years or however long. And it was funny because my mom and pops, they just celebrated their 50th anniversary December 20th. So I wanted to do my little post. I literally spent 6 hours going through all these different old pictures
yeah,
just because I had access to them. And I mean, oh my goodness, yo, who is this right here? And, pictures of me. I'm 1 years old, and you know what I mean. Different things of that nature. And I got to do like a nice picture tribute. But when I thought about it, when I looked to see what time it was, I was like, the day is almost over because I've been literally looking at pictures all day,
yeah,
just going through these pictures. But that's one of those things that I like to do. And like you say, just scrolling through it, so many get lost, and God forbid you start running out of memory. Then your device start deleting pictures on their own because it's not
yeah,
like I was looking for this one picture, but it's not even there no more. Like you say, it was always something about going to grandma's house and getting a big old photo album out and just flipping it.
yeah,
You're trying to be careful so the plastic don't rip the picture up.
yeah,
Those things of that nature there, man. Like you said, those are precious times, and it's funny. Like when it's always fun when family could get together and go back and reminisce.
yeah,
Oh my God, I look so young in this picture, or different things there. I remember when I had a flat. Oh, look, I actually had hair back then. And all that
yeah.
was all those kind of different things. But no matter what you're going on through life, it'll give you a good picker upper, so to speak.
And sometimes it's an eye opener. We look at a photo, man, my waist was 30 inches back then. Oh, I'm looking at 50 now. Oh, let me get my steps in. Let me, like sometimes we need that.
Uh
And
huh.
and the problem with the having everything on the cell phone, if I got everything on my dang on cell phone and I go to Bahamas and they get lost in the ocean, all those memories are gone.
Uh
All
huh.
that stuff is gone.
That's
You
just
you know,
like
I can log into Google and get my get a little bit, but the thing is like when we just have something physical, it releases a chemical, it stimulates your brain.
mm-hmm.
Especially laughter and all those things. So I just think we gotta, as a community, I think people just need to start promoting that because I think, when we start thinking about our own conditions versus how someone else, and I think, you talked about the Dave Chappelle monologue, and he was talking about, what was it? He he said something about, it'll come to me. It'll come. He said a lot during that 17-minute monologue, but
Yeah.
he was just talking about basically reflecting. The exact words will come to me, but the thing is, he was talking about his family. The memories and uh, comedians that he had worked with. So
Yeah. And then also with that, that's something that we need to reinstill into our children too. And you made a good point because I remember my boys was growing up, they used to hate it, and I was funny because me and my youngest son were talking about it not so long ago. He's like, "Man, I don't do that no more." But I used to tell him like, "Yo, I don't care which 5 it is, but you need to memorize 5 phone numbers, whether it be your grandmother, whether it be mine, your mother's, your other grandmother, your grandfather, your uncle, whoever.
yeah,
You need to commit to memory 5 different lost his connection. 5 different phone numbers because you just need to get back. Like I think that's one thing about social media too, and the internet and different things and so-called smartphones. I think these smartphones really make us dumber, for lack of a better word. Not even dumber. It definitely makes us more lazier. Because why would I don't need to know your phone number. All I have to do is hit send. God forbid you can't charge your phone or you lose power, whatever the case may be. Now, all of a sudden, you don't, like you said, you don't lost all that's lost to you. So it's very important that it's good if it's used properly, but smartphones just make us lazier. Technology, the more advanced technology is, I think a lot of times it makes us lazier. We don't want to read books. I could just Google it real quick. You know what I'm saying? But it was different when
yeah,
you actually had to go commit things to memory and you had to actually physically read a book. Even with church, it was different when you actually had to walk in church with a Bible, as opposed
hmm
to just opening up your little iPad now with these different things. It was something about being able to flip through the word and you see the pink highlighter and the green highlighter and the yellow highlighter, and this part here
yeah,
is underlined and different things of that nature there. So I think, yeah, thank God we ain't got to do that no more. But I always look at it too, like even in the advancement of everyday life, right? It's cool that we got self checkouts now, right? But I remember the day back in the day where they actually had to put the labels and the prices on the cans and the bread and everything else with the little gun, chit 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 chit, and you had to ring everything up from the cashier. But now that we got this, oh, thank God we ain't got to stand in those lines no more. But the truth of the matter is, guess what?
yeah,
Now that's a job that somebody doesn't have. You know what I mean? We don't look at it from that aspect. Like
yeah,
that's somebody that can't feed their family now because they've been replaced with these machines. So, I think we just got to
yeah,
be mindful of that there and things of that nature and just be, like you said earlier, be empathetic to everybody's struggle. And it's like so many times, that's the true testament of life and the power of the goodness of God, rather, when we could say, you know what, like you say, well, I remember those days, $2.71.
hmm
Look how far God has brought me, though.
yeah,
You know what I mean? And that's not trying to show nobody else up. It's just to show me my growth and where God has brought me from. And I make sure I'm intentional about not forgetting, because that
yeah.
could easily be, I could be living somebody else's lifestyle. You know what I mean? So,
Oh, definitely.
like like the scripture say, but for the grace of God, there go I. That could be any of us. That's why I'm so empathetic for addicts. That's why I'm so empathetic for these different people that go these different things, because people like, well, that kind of their fault. I'm like, yo, people make a choice to do drugs. Nobody signs up to become an addict. You know
Yeah,
what I mean? Just like nobody signs up for cancer. But if you get diagnosed with cancer, you have to live with it. But that's not something that you ask for. You see what I'm saying?
yeah,
So I'm real empathetic when it comes to those type things there, because some things go beyond our control. The real testament of who you are and your character, though, is how do you face that adversity? Do you just dwell in your room, or I don't want nobody to see me, or I'm losing all my hair? Like, are you going to let that change how you live your life, or are you going to take advantage of the time that you do have left and make the most of it?
yeah, yeah.
So it's important for outlook when it comes to things of that nature there. But did you have anything in particular that you wanted to discuss?
What I did want to ask you, we had touched on it before about, first how the NIL has changed, college football, the playoffs, all those things. But then now that Notre Dame has made it to the final,
Mm-hmm.
how Notre Dame will probably get, just as the NIL, you have all these athletes now hopping in the portal, wherever it is to get more money. Now that Notre Dame got about $20 million, they don't have to share it with a conference because they're independent.
Mm-hmm.
So I think now, just like we have the portal, you're going to have a whole lot of college programs paying exit fees, $300 million to the ACC, the Big Ten, paying, $400 million just so they can get out and be independent, control their own schedule, pick who they want to play. And then when they do win big, they keep all the money.
Yeah.
So I think there's going to be a big transition, within, a bigger transition within the next 2 or 3 years. Now that Notre Dame did what they did,
Mm-hmm.
They brought light to independent schools.
Yeah. And to your point, like I remember, I'm a Florida State football fan when it comes to football, college football, but I remember when we were independent, and that's why a lot of times we were so dominant in the 80s and 90s along Miami, and you had Notre Dame, you had I believe Penn State was at one time too. I'm not sure, but I know we was, like you said, we got to pick our own schedule, so we wasn't a part of no conference, so we didn't have to face North Carolina or Duke like if an ACC team. We got to play Notre Dame, or we got to play Nebraska, or we got to play Texas, whoever we wanted to put on the schedule, and it carried that much weight because we wasn't running from nobody. And we, like you said, we could do that because they, as an entity, they don't have to share that money. They don't have to share that big piece of the pie, And even like when it comes to pro sports, for me, it's always been like, I look at it from this standpoint. I don't think the owner should definitely get the money because I look at it like modern day slavery, so to speak. Forget the dollar amount. I'm talking about the practice, right? These owners, you are a piece of property to them in pro sports. So we're gonna give you this little bit of money so you go over there and live in this gated community. But if I want to trade you, you're out of here. I don't care what you did for the team. I don't care how many hours a day you put in, how much you love me and you sent my wife flowers and this all the gifts there. You're just a piece of property to me. So I don't want to see the owners get richer or wealthier, I should say, off of being just because they are labeled as a owner.
Well, can I play devil's advocate with that?
Go ahead.
Okay, so let's take a NBA team, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now let's say because when that owner buys that team, and I'm not talking about the groups like Magic Johnson, he gets together with about 20 people. I'm talking about like the guy that played for Michigan State that bought what was the last team? But he bought them by himself. Or let's say the guy that co-started Microsoft and the LA Clippers had to be sold.
Mm-hmm.
He was basically, they were bidding on it, and he's like, well, what's the highest bid? And they were like $2.5 billion.
Yeah.
He's like, you know what? Let's shut it down. Offer $5 billion.
Yeah, I'll pay that.
And then, all by itself. So Steve Ballmer, he did that. Now, this is the thing. What do you feel like? Who do you think should get the biggest benefit? The one that put the biggest risk? Because right now, the way the collective bargaining agreement in the NFL is that any profits is split 50-50.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, each team gets revenue and stuff like that from just being a league, but as far as the owners, all those owners, you look at Robert Kraft, you look at all these people, these pro teams is their club team.
Mm-hmm.
They got the guy that owns
pay money for some of them.
Well, the guy that owned the Cavaliers, he owns TurboTax and Quicken.
Exactly.
Like these sports is just for them to be a part of a club.
And
To say they're a owner.
yeah,
That's not, they don't even care. That's why when the NBA players said we're gonna strike, we want at least 50% of all revenue.
mm-hmm,
And they said, okay, I'm still in the club.
mm-hmm,
So I think, as long as the ownership is willing to share, I don't think it's nothing like, because I think the NBA, they generate it's billions a year, 20,
yeah,
25, 26 billion a year.
absolutely,
So they split that. It goes between the teams and the league, but then those NBA players are getting their share now. Like when we talk about modern day slavery,
mm-hmm,
the fastest way for black athletes to become millionaires,
mm-hmm.
baseball, football.
Yeah,
Come on now, like
absolutely.
them jokers are.
You got my man from the Los Angeles that just signed what 700 million and can't even speak English.
Yeah, but that's the thing, and
Otani,
it's like,
Otani.
so people are building wealth as long as they spend it right. Now, you got some of these athletes, they go out there, if I won, the neighborhood won. If
Yeah.
I make it, we all make it.
Mm-hmm.
They don't hire no tax advisor, they don't hire no financial advisor, they don't hire any of those things. The next thing you know, 3, 4 years out the league. I remember a story of Allen Iverson when he sold his house, and the realtor called him when the person was doing the walkthrough and they were interested in buying a house. They asked AI, "Hey, there's a Rolls Royce in the garage." He was like, "Oh, just throw it in with the house." Like those are the things, like,
Yeah.
like when you don't manage money correctly and things like that. And if it wasn't for his agent to make sure that he received these millions of dollars when he turned 52,
Mm-hmm.
you know, it,
35
it
million.
like that agent didn't have to do that. But
Mm-hmm.
he put that in his contract because he's like, I kind of think like I feel like you're
Yeah.
gonna go through your money. So
Yeah.
I want to make sure you have something when you get in your 50s. So I think, when it comes to pro sports, I think it's one of those things that I don't see it as slavery because they're getting paid.
Mhm.
Like if you're on a practice squad, you getting for 7 months, you're getting paid like $450,000.
Yeah,
You
absolutely.
know, like that's not
That's why I
like,
said not totality, just from the way that it's the practice of it, not the money aspect of it, just the practice of it. You know what I mean? Where you could, like I said, you could shake this player, even though you paying them, you could take this player and send him over to John Bow to Mississippi or whatever the case may be, just because you want to, and he has no say so in that matter. You know what I mean? That it's
yeah,
like that aspect. Like I said, I ain't talking about the money part of it because, like you
yeah,
said, anybody's going to do that. I'm talking about the actual practice of it when we take the dollars away from it. And the reason that I always say that is because now all of a sudden I want to see the players get the money, but here's the downside. Now we get less of a product because
mhm,
the hunger and the desire isn't there anymore because, like you said, back to that mentality, mama, I made it. I look at the modern day NBA, staying with the NBA, it's like you got a dude that's the 10th man coming off the bench that's making $19 million. And
yeah,
he's riding the bench. But who suffers from that? Us, the fans, because he worried about what club he buying out tonight. He's not worried about
yeah.
being the greatest ever. I made more money than Michael Jordan ever made, and I don't even have to play.
And that's the CBA, because if you notice, every year there's another player that signs the biggest NBA contract now
Max contract every year.
because of that collective bargain agreement.
Mm-hmm.
As revenue increases, their checks increase.
Yeah, and I always look at the difference in Michael Vick and a few years later his younger brother Marcus Vick. Like Michael's like, yo, we getting up out of Newport News. But Mike was getting that NFL money. So Marcus, his struggle wasn't the same because he's living in Atlanta with Michael Vick. Like,
Yeah.
the struggle, the hunger for you to get out that hood, what usually drive most of us, is not the same no more because you already live in a privileged lifestyle. And even outside of sports, we think about it right now in our normal society, right? Think about
Yeah.
how we raise our kids, and it's like half the time, I forgot what comedian was saying. I was watching, and he was making a good point because it's something that I've been saying all the time. Like, of course, as parents, we say, I went through this here, so you wouldn't have to go through that. But sometimes, in some cases, some of our kids need to go through half of the things that we went through because y'all spoil little brats that have this sense of entitlement. That's like, yo, I'm 16. Where are my brand new car keys at? Like, I was a grown man with a family before I actually had my own vehicle. You see what I'm saying?
My son did that. Look, when I took that joker to the DMV, and as soon as he got his permit, we got back. We sat in the car. He was like, "So, Dad, when am I gonna get my new car?" I
You
said,
tell me.
"Dude, I said this 1996 Acura Integra is your car." I said, "It's gonna be new to you." It's like it's this entitlement and stuff.
Yeah.
But I think that's the catch because, like, along with all the money, the other thing that's affecting it is now they're doing like the load management.
Mm-hmm.
They're doing all
Oh
this
my
stuff.
God.
Like I think LeBron just broke Jordan's record for 30-point games,
Mm-hmm.
but yet he played 7, 8 more years longer.
Yeah,
To break that 30-point games. Now
exactly.
the difference is, if you add up all LeBron's missed games, it's probably more than 82 games.
Mm-hmm.
But you look at Jordan, if you remove the year, his first year where he blew out his knee, I mean, come on.
That's
You
it.
know why his knees went back in when he was playing for the Wizards? Because he was carrying the whole team. You
Mm-hmm.
know that. I mean, that joker 40 years old and leading the team in scoring. And it's one of those things that load management, all those things. I think that's messing up because when you go to a game and you pay good money for those tickets,
Listen,
and they sit
listen.
they sit down all the starters. Like, come on, like the only person who did good by the people was Mark Cuban. That time
Mhm.
they was heading to the playoffs. He
Yeah.
sat there and Steve Nash, Dirk, all of them. But guess what he did? He bought a plane ticket for everybody in the arena. He
Mm-hmm.
worked with American Airlines, so everybody in that arena got a free flight voucher, and Mark Cuban paid it.
Yeah. And
I said,
that's exactly the point that I was going to make because I remember, not that I couldn't, because I've had opportunity to go to some, but I remember the last NBA game that I physically went to in person. And at the time, my youngest son, he was a big KG fan. Oh my God, Kevin Garnett, Kevin Garnett. Okay,
mhm,
the Boston Celtics, they coming down here to Charlotte. So I got to we're going to make a whole weekend of it. We're going to spend the night in Charlotte, all that there, get the hotel room, get the
yeah,
jerseys and all that there. But not to mention, these jokers already done clinched they first round, the first seed in the playoffs. So because it was toward the
yeah,
end of the season, right before the playoff, maybe 2 weeks before the playoffs actually started. Man, we get there, ain't no KG there, ain't no Ray Allen there, ain't no Rajon Rondo there, like
yeah,
ain't no Paul Pierce there because they had already clinched. My thing is like you to your point, as somebody that works hard as an average day worker, when I spend my hard-earned money to get this memory for my kid, I feel like the least thing that you could do, especially making all these $millions, even if you ain't gonna play, get your behind on that plane and come sit on the bench. So my kid can say, "Yo, they go Paul, he ain't playing, but they go KG." At least older, it's a disservice to the fans to me. You know what I mean? That's one reason I don't like load management because everybody can't afford $5,000 floor seats. You know what I mean? You got some people
yeah,
that got to work to be able to take their kids to create back to being a parent, creating these moments.
yeah,
You mean to tell me, oh man, this is the one time a year that the Lakers are coming into town and I don't get to see LeBron James if that's who your kid likes or whoever it is.
yeah,
I don't get to see Anthony Edwards. He didn't even show up to the game. I need to at least see you in street clothes, man. Like, and back in the day, we didn't have to deal with that because whether jokers was taping their hands together, they was gonna get out there. But like I said, when you're making so much money, the hunger isn't always the same. There, we got a few players that ain't on this pretty boys tough type stuff, but it's very few. It's very
Yeah,
few.
but you got to think also. That's why I had so much respect for Jordan and Kobe. And Kobe said Jordan was the one who taught him to play every game like your last
That's it.
and play at your best, because there's going to be somebody in them stands
You better
that
believe.
that's going to be the only time they ever go to an NBA game.
Yeah. And they
And
can't
I
for
think
you.
Kobe took that, and I think that's why Jordan gravitated to Kobe. And Jordan, I think he even said that he was like, he felt he was one of the very, very, very few players that loved the game as much as he did. And that's why, and a lot of people didn't know they was bonded like that.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the thing right there, that I think when we talk about experiences and things like that, when I see like baseball players, they get a you know, the guy from South Korea just signed like an $800 million contract
Never
over
forget. Well,
10
time.
years,
Yeah.
and people are like, well, how come baseball, they get paid so much? I said, they play like
They play
180
500 games a
games
year.
a year, and their stadiums are like four times the size of NBA courts.
Yeah.
And so I said, think about how much concessions make. Think about all those things. I said, that's why they get paid like that. And
And they
and
play
that's
double headers on some days. They might have 2 games in a day.
yeah, and then oh yeah, what is it they got in New York where the Yankees play the Mets, they play one
Subway
place, then they
series.
hop on the train, and then
Yeah.
they ride to the other when they have another
Nothing like
game.
it. Nothing like it. The Subway series.
Yeah, so that right there, I mean, it's things like that, it's experiences. But
Mm-hmm.
when I look at like the stuff that's going on with like the WNBA, I told you I watched the 3-on-3, the unrivaled tournament.
Uh-huh.
And when I look at the stands and I see three, maybe 400 people in there, and then the women that created it, they're saying, oh, you're gonna make a minimum of $250,000. I'm like,
Where's that
300
money
people
go?
go to the game,
Mm-hmm.
only 300. You're paying each one of these players 250K. The math ain't mapping.
Yeah.
You're gonna end up in the red at the end of the season.
Real quick.
Yeah, so it's one of those things. Like I remember, researching like NBA players when they first started. A lot of people didn't know, like a lot of them players, they were mailmen, milkmen during the day. Yeah,
Lawyers and everything else.
yeah, they was all types of stuff, custodians, janitors, like, all types. And so it took years to build. And I think sometimes because our society, everybody wants stuff now.
It's
Like I remember the young lady, Kelsey Plum, she's a dog, on the court.
yeah.
She was talking about, well, we're not asking to be paid what the NBA players are being paid. We just want the same thing. We want the same revenue sharing. We want the same profit sharing. And then the reporter asked her, well, last year y'all ended 40 million in the red. So there was no profit.
So are you gonna pay half of that back?
Yes. So it's one of those things. Like I think if it's more focus on bettering your skill, and
Mm-hmm.
that's the difference between men and women. Not me trying to be no misogynist or anything like that. Facts is just facts.
Mm-hmm.
Women, when guys come to the game, up until the last maybe decade, they came to the game just wearing anything. I mean, remember Tim Duncan? They thought he was like a little college student with his book bag and plaid shirt.
Mm-hmm.
But you look at them jokers now coming to the game wearing a $10,000 fit, $8,000 fit, things like that, like it's the runway. I'm like, spend more time on your craft.
Mm-hmm.
Fill the seats, because when the seats get filled, what happens is more concessions. It's more things. Now you start getting a profit. They started flying charter flights.
Mm-hmm.
Guess what? Now they ended up 25 million more in the hole, because they're saying, oh, we're gonna have all these more fans. And
Mm-hmm.
I told somebody, I said, the WNBA doesn't have new fans. What they have is Cameron Brink fans, Adriel Reese fans,
Mm-hmm.
Caitlin Clark
Yep.
fans. I said, those fans aren't coming for the league. They're coming to see that specific player.
Mm-hmm.
So I just think, we want stuff so quick, and Denzel Washington said it best. We're in this society now where we want results quick.
Mm-hmm.
We see it in the NFL. The Patriots just fired a first year head coach. Another
Exactly.
team fired a first year head coach. Like everybody, you look at college. I remember when Michigan hired Harbaugh. It the only game Michigan lost was against Ohio State. It was the
Mm-hmm.
third year in a row. They won all the other games.
Yeah.
They fired the head coach. We just need a coach. We don't care about nothing, but we need to beat Ohio State.
Mm-hmm.
And that's
That's
all
how
we
serious
do.
that rivalry is.
Yeah, but that's the thing, is like we want, because all the money that's being paid, these owners or GMs, it's almost like the Detroit Lions when the daughter took over. The parents wanted her to handle the car and tire business because their name is Ford Michelin. So that's why every Ford has a Michelin tire on it, because that's all their family money.
Yeah, exactly.
They wanted her to handle that. And then when they got L and passed, she was like, I just don't want a team. I want a championship caliber team. So
Mm-hmm.
she told the people, hey, I'm hiring this coach. Y'all clean out. They started shipping all those big time contracts away. They started getting all these drafts. And look, 4 years later, look where they at.
Yeah.
Like I'm sad, because I'm a Lion, all day. But as soon as they took seven guys came off injured reserve, and they tried to incorporate them right there, I
Mm-hmm.
was like, you know what? It's not gonna be good.
I-
Everybody's timing
yeah.
off. You getting called penalties for 12 men on the field. You
Mm-hmm.
know, people. It happens, but I'm not gonna be like clueless, like some of these Dallas Cowboy fans. You know, I know Detroit will be back there next year. Jerry Jones is just that salesman, because I know at the beginning of the season, every year, all these Cowboys fans going to HR trying to put in PTO. This the year Jerry said we going to the Super Bowl.
Uh-huh.
So it's one of those things that
Even when he don't say it, they try to believe it. That's what I've learned. As much as I can stand the Cowboys, I learned maybe 10 years ago. I said, you know what? It's not actually Jerry Jones. I respect Jerry Jones as a businessman. I
Mhm.
said, it's these fans that make me hate the Cowboys so much. Like you say, every year, oh yeah, this is our year. I'm a diehard Knicks fan. I'm a diehard Giant fan.
Mhm.
If we win a game, I'm happy. But I'm never going into the season saying that this is our year and believing it.
Well, I'm not gonna lie. Last year, when Detroit lost, I was like, no, it's gonna be right. We're gonna be back next year.
Mm-hmm.
This year, I was disappointed. Like I said, I knew something was up when you bring in 7 dudes that just came off an injured reserve. But I said the same thing. You know what? My NFL season's over. But I said the Lions will be back next year. I said they're not losing nobody, and they get Hutchinson back. So I said,
Yeah,
so I'm going in there, but I'm not going in there blind.
yeah,
Like how them Cowboys fans do. We them boys, but I'm like, it's funny that the dang on Lions make it to, from doing that bad, because I think we got the record for no wins in a season, 4 or 5 years ago.
yeah.
So it's like,
We was right there with y'all three years ago. We went the whole season and didn't win a game.
but I've
Next
always
year,
been
turn
the
around and win it all.
Tigers, Red Wings, Lions, everything Detroit.
All
But
Detroit. Okay.
yeah, the Pistons.
Me personally, I was happy with the accomplishment that they made even last year, even this year. I'm old enough to say, you know what? I believe it when I see it. I had no faith in the Lions because it's like the ghost of Christmas past. Like, for some reason, something is going to happen, especially like last year. There's no world, y'all. Man, Dan Campbell, like, what are you doing, bro?
No, well, that's what got him there, going for it on fourth down. And I look at the percentage of the kicker that they used to have. Remember, they just
Yeah, yeah,
brought
yeah.
the
They may have.
dude, he was selling for a brickland company,
Mm-hmm.
and they brought him in. So they didn't have a reliable kicker last year. So Dan Campbell's like, we going for it. Y'all know the deal. And I wasn't mad at him because I'm like, look, this what got us here.
True.
So hey, if that's how you
You got
don't
to.
do like look, don't do like how Milbert used to do when they would run teams out the gym
Mm-hmm.
and then get to the playoffs and Coach McGinnis wanna be cautious.
I
You know,
think I think it's case by case because I never understood that. That was my biggest knock on Andy Reid before he started winning in Kansas City. Even when he was back
yeah.
in Philly, like, dude, like you said, we've been playing all this way. We lost 2 games in the whole entire season. Why did you get to the Super Bowl and want to reinvent the wheel?
Yeah.
Do what got you here. And I always thought that Andy Reid would never get over that hump because he was known for getting there, but changing the game plan up. You know what I mean? You used to
Yeah.
your running back usually get 20 carries a game. You get to the Super Bowl, he only got 4 carries. Like, make sense. Like,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
you sometimes I think they outcoach themselves.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? But nah, like you said, I thought it was just the time of that game. I didn't agree with the Dan Campbell situation in the playoffs because it was like it's a lot at stake. But it's easy to say that after the fact. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Because if it had been successful, now we have a whole different conversation. You know what I'm
Oh,
saying?
definitely. Yeah.
So I take that into consideration too, man.
He would have been a genius.
But that's one thing I do like about him. He's one of those coaches that, as like a former player, like, yo, you know how you got some coaches you just want to play for. There's certain organizations that you just want to play for. You know what I mean? Because
Oh
it's like
yeah.
he's like a player's coach. Like, he got that whole vibe about him. Like, you know what, man? We got to be careful because if we put some shoulder pads and a helmet on coach gonna be right there on the field with us. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, he was a big tight end when he played.
Yeah, I remember him as a tight end.
Yeah, and the thing about that is, like, I think the offensive coordinator is gonna become the head coach for Chicago. Um,
They just announced who did they sign? I just seen it on the bottom line earlier. They what's his name?
White dude, blonde hair, shaved side, got a fade. But he
Because I want to say it was
amazing
the Cowboys.
OC.
It might be him because I like I said, it was definitely an offensive coordinator, but they signed him earlier today.
Yeah, it was from because Dan Campbell said he
Ben
doesn't.
Johnson.
Yeah, yeah.
Ben Johnson.
Um,
That's what you talking about.
uh, Dan Campbell said he doesn't expect to have either his defensive coordinator or offensive coordinator next year. He's like, when they come here to Detroit, we're preparing them to become head coaches.
Okay.
He's like, we're gonna be good, and it's not a lot of coaches like that.
Mm-hmm.
Bill Belichick would have been like, no, we need you to stay here.
Yeah.
We need you to. But Dan Campbell, I think that's why so many people play hard for him.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they go all out for him, and but I'm looking forward for at least the next 2 years because after that, now you're gonna have the money start coming in because everybody's contracts and rookie contracts, Gibbs, his contracts coming up,
Yeah.
and that's normally when those days are gone when somebody played with a whole franchise their entire career.
Yeah.
So
Show me
you,
the money.
you got to really be able to sacrifice, to stay with a team.
Yeah. Have you before we get out of here, man? Have you been paying attention to any of the stuff going on as far as the wildfires out there in California?
Oh yeah, yeah, and I do have some family that stay out that way.
Mm.
Not they're up north, San Francisco, and some way down south in San Bernardino. And the thing is, I was at Fort Bragg,
Okay.
and every year range control did control burns. You burn the underbrush and all that, and
Mm.
every state gets federal money for that. And I think the one mistake that happened with California was when the governor had taken $100 million from that underbrush budget to put it into, other things.
Mhm.
And now this is the thing. So when you have 4 or 5 years of underbrush, all these dead branches falling, leaves, and it's just building up, and you know how hot it can get, how the wind can blow on the mountains in Cali, like that's just something waiting to happen. But then when they remove 17.5 million from the fire budget, which included a lot of the mechanics that service the vehicles. Like, they got those planes that scoop the water out the ocean,
Yeah,
and drop it. Well, California, the PD has 9 of those, but because they don't have anybody to fix them, only 2 was functioning
that's
because
cool.
they cut the budget. So they're already and the third thing that messed it up is the lady that they hired to oversee the water and power. They pay her like double because the mayor went on some initiative to hey, we're gonna go into the private sector.
Mhm.
So the old one was getting paid like 400K a year. They brought the new girl in 750K a year. They had memos that they was telling them these fire hydrants aren't working, they're out of service.
Mhm.
Then the dang on Palisade reservoir been empty since 2018 because it
Right.
had a tear in it.
Mhm.
So it's a lot of mismanagement.
Yeah.
I tell people, like, they say, oh, you can't control a natural disaster, things like that. I'm like, yeah, you can't always control it, but you can control. If they wouldn't have stopped that program, they would have had 12-foot fire breaks. But the governor was like, well, we want to leave everything natural. We want to leave all this natural. Now look what happened. All the rich folks' house burned down,
Mhm.
right? And none of them have insurance, really. And the reason
Exactly.
why they don't got insurance is because last year, when the insurance companies was like, look, you cut this underbrush from the budget, so it's more of a fire hazard because all the houses in the hidden hills and all those places got trees all around them.
Mhm.
So we're going to have to raise the premiums because the market value of the homes went up. So the cost of replacement has gone up.
Mhm.
So the governor signed an executive order saying, no, you cannot raise the premium. So guess what happened last year?
You know what? Oh, no
All
problem.
state, all state left.
Completely. All
And
together.
yeah, all together, canceled everything. Then this summer, he signed into law. He removed it from being an executive order to being signed into law. So soon as he signed it into law this summer, State Farm left
Mhm.
because you got people up there that was paying like the replacement or insurance on a $3 million home, but now the house is worth 15 million.
Mhm.
So they're like, we can't go bankrupt, but they're trying to make it sound like these people just canceled their policies.
No.
And I tell people, like, when they talk about when Biden got up there and said, oh, we're gonna the government, we're gonna pay 100% for all the recovery, them rich folks don't need no help. That's not the hood. That's the hidden hills. That's Brentwood.
Mhm.
That's all those places. But this is the other thing. Most famous people, they bought their houses under their company and their LLC. So guess what? If it burned down, it's a tax write-off anyways.
Yeah.
Like, it's the thing, like, why don't you take care of the people in Western North Carolina, in Georgia, and the poor folks?
Exactly.
They're the ones who need 100% recovery help,
Mhm.
not the dang on millionaires, not what they call the baby oil bandits.
Yeah.
Well, they don't need it.
Mhm. And what you said, like I look at it like I'm always one of those ones. I like to look at things and I love conspiracy theories because for me personally, I think a lot of times they don't want you to know the truth, so to speak, and they want you to like Kanye when he said what he said, not just not the Hitler, but everything else that he said about the them folk and the people that own the record labels and everything else. Like, where's the lie? Where's the lie?
Yeah.
But but because we don't want you knowing that truth, or we don't want to be exposed to be that, we got to make you look crazy. We got to call you a conspiracy theorist. Doesn't mean that what you're saying is not true. That's why when you said it, it's like mismanagement. It could be mismanagement, but is it really? Because, like you say, they emptied out the reservoirs. They knew that was emptied out. Then, like you said, when they brought that new lady in, they also cut. I believe they said it was like 17% of the fire department.
They cut 17 million, but most of those were service jobs, like the mechanics.
Okay.
So it's, how you gonna keep the fire trucks running? How you gonna keep the airplanes running?
But
But this is the thing.
it was a significant amount of firefighters as well that lost their job.
No, and you know why they lost their job? Because they wouldn't get the shot.
Okay.
And when they said, okay, we're gonna lift the mandate, a lot of them had already gotten jobs. If they didn't retire, they had gotten jobs outside of LA County.
Okay.
So that's the thing. So they were short. That's why they end up using prisoners, which is another thing. But when we talk about what can be controlled or not, the largest mall in that area, the Palisade Mall, was built by that developer who ran against Karen Bass to be the mayor. A Democrat developer, but what he did when he saw the news and he saw the weather predictions, guess what he did? He hired private firefighters to come in and be on standby. He got 12 water tankers to be parked on every street of the Palisade Mall.
To make sure the mall is good.
So when that fire hit, guess what was untouched 99%? The Palisade Mall development. And if you want to look at the size, it's the size of North Hills across both streets of North Hills in Raleigh.
Okay.
That's how big it is. And he was able to prevent anything from being burned down because of his planning. So when Karen Bass gets recalled, which she will, because there are over 150,000 signatures now, she blew him out in the election. But now all them folks, the rich folks, all the people who donate money are like, who are you going to vote for? The one who let everything burn down or the one who didn't let nothing burn down? So it could have been planned for. If that reservoir was filled alone, it could have definitely slowed down. It wouldn't have been as much damage. It probably would have been reduced by like 80%. So I think, everything, especially when it comes to FEMA and all that emergency management, there's always pre-planning for everything. And I just think when she didn't show, people don't like her because when that guy was planning, bringing in those tankers, she got on the plane and flew to Ghana to celebrate, to basically take a vacation.
Yeah.
And then when they leaked all those photos from Ghana with her sitting down, sipping champagne while people's homes is burning up, that's your constituents.
Yeah.
Oh, you ain't getting reelected. Just like Gavin Newsom, he can hang it up as far as being the president. He probably had a chance in 2028, but he ain't gonna have no chance. I think Kamala will have a better chance than him.
Like Ted Cruz did all them years ago when disaster hit his area and he went on vacation. He said,
"Oh, the cold, yeah." And what he said. The thing is, what he did that I'm waiting for Gavin Newsom to do, or even Karen Bass. When he got back, he's like, my wife was talking about going on vacation. She told some of her friends, and they was upset because they wasn't going on vacation. So they called the news. He was like, that was my mistake, my misjudgment. It's on me. When they asked on Gavin Newsom about it, he goes into something about, we have the highest GDP than any other country in just the state. He like just deflects. He can never be accountable. Like they asked him about, how did you waste $24 billion this year to fight homelessness, and the homeless population tripled? Like, where does that happen at?
I mean, right, yeah.
So he starts going into all these things. Well, we're the mainstay of green energy. California is the model, is the standard for what other countries do. Like he's not accountable. When Karen Bass came back from the flight, they showed that thing on video. Reporters asking her,
Mm.
she just looking down at the ground, ain't saying nothing. And that's not what people want as leadership. And that's why I told people, like, on November 5th, that morning, you look on my Facebook, what I posted, what I predicted was going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
I said it was going to be 226 to 302 Trump. And I said the reason why, I said because all these black folks seeing all this money going to Ukraine, all these black folks in Chicago, New York, New Jersey, seeing all this money go to these illegal immigrants. South side of Chicago, they had that one community center with the Pop Warner football field that the community renovated, not the
Yeah,
city. The
yeah.
community put their money together and did that. That mayor kicked them out to put illegal aliens in there so they could have a soccer field. And that's what people are remembering. That's why I
Mm-hmm.
said down here, we not seeing none of that.
Mm-hmm.
We all got our different priorities. But
Yeah.
when you get there's a point where you get tired when you see you've been told all these years that there's no money, there's no money, there's no way we can do it. Then all of a sudden you shipping people coming from out the country, you putting them up in 5-star hotels, room service,
Giving
you
them a
up
stipend.
in New York getting $1,400 a month
Yeah.
EBT, and you single, you a single male. Like you got mothers, single mothers, that they're giving them just enough
Mm-hmm.
to make it to the first of the month.
Mm-hmm.
These jokers, they didn't just give them, Adams and them just didn't give them 1,400 a month. He gave them loaded cars to where they could go anywhere. Them dang on Hispanic dudes up there at the dollhouse, at the cabarets, they at the they like making it rain with plastic. The strippers coming out with credit card swipers. And that's the issue. But here we restricted. You take an EB card and you try to get something that's not food.
Mm-hmm.
Deny,
Got
reject
it.
it,
It's
reject
not
it.
what it is.
So that's what people saw, and that's the reason why it went like it was. Yeah, some people like, well, he a racist. Other people was like, I think she won. We don't know their experience. I just know this. Every South Indian I know, them jokers can't stand black folks.
Mm-hmm.
You will never see an Indian woman with a black man unless he is a pro athlete or he's a prominent doctor or attorney. That's my next door neighbor is. And I'm like, they share information.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the thing right there, is like that's what people remember from back in Cali.
Yeah.
So that's their situation. Here in North Carolina, we can't, I don't know what it is out there in Cali if I haven't lived out there.
All you
But
know is what they feeding you. Yeah.
yeah, so I can't tell the people out in Cali, oh no, she didn't do truancy. Even though I see these black women that was locked up for truancy, and while their daughter had sickle cell, which is why they was out.
Mm-hmm.
I'm here in North Carolina, but I'm like, these sisters out in Cali can't be lying. The daughter's validating, yes, I was in the hospital for 30 days. And the police came and arrested my mama, put handcuffs on her in the hospital. Like, come on now, like that resonates in somebody's mind when they go to the poll.
Yeah.
Like I said,
It's
we
a
see
difference
something
being there.
here. Yeah, but when you there, I can't tell nobody in Iowa how to vote. I can't tell nobody in Cali how to vote. I
Mm-hmm.
can't tell somebody in Jersey or New York how to vote. I can, like, here in North Carolina, I'm up on what Cooper's done, what
Mm-hmm.
Robertson has done, what Stein has done. So that's the difference. So that's why I try to stick to mostly, North Carolina stuff.
Yeah.
I just know policy just because, I went to school for emergency management.
Mm-hmm.
So I pay attention to fires and hurricanes and floods and things like that.
Yeah. See me, I'm like that too. I think it was around 2000. At the time, I was living in Little Rock, Arkansas, and I remember, we watch, like you said, we watch the national news, and I tell people all the
Mhm.
time, the news is not necessarily the truth; it's just the information that they want you to know. You know what I mean? The real news to me is what they're not telling us. But I remember
Yeah.
seeing all these different things, and I believe he's now, but at the time it was Cory Booker. Cory Booker was the mayor
Mhm.
of my city back home in Newark, New Jersey. And I remember going back home, and I was like, "Yo, man," I said, "Yo," based off of what I'm seeing on CNN and MSNBC and all these different news outlets, like, "Yo, Cory Booker doing this thing." And I mean, everybody in the city of Newark that I said that in front of, they was almost like ready to assassinate me. Like, "Yo, man, screw Cory Booker, man. You know why crime don't went down? Because he's locking old people, he locking everybody up. If you're outside, I don't care whether you're an 82-year-old lady or you're a
Mhm.
16-year-old boy. They just bringing all the paddy wagons out down, rolling them down the street. If you're outside, you're locking them up. We'll sort them out when we get down to Green Street. So it was
Yeah.
literally where people who were scared to go outside. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Ain't no hanging out in front of the house and all that there. But I didn't know that because what they're showing us, like you say, nationally, that wasn't
Mhm.
what we were seeing. But the people there, and that was the same thing when it came to me with Harris. I was going based off of everything that I know people that live in California that was directly affected by the choices and decisions that she made. I wasn't
Mhm.
going based off of like what everybody else is saying and the blackness and all that did. I was going based off of what people in California say. And there's not too many people that I knew that lived in California that was rocking with her like that. So why don't you rock with her? And they would tell me different stories and different things that they had experienced. I'm like, oh wow, this is
Yeah.
the same person that's running for president. But the last point I wanted to make on the fires was I looked, and one of the things that I was watching, they showed the blueprint, right?
Mhm.
Of so they're talking about these different. I think I don't know where else it is, but there's another country that has one, but they're labeling it as these smart cities. So
Mhm.
being that California, Los Angeles in particular, got the bid for the 2028 Olympics, they showed how they were talking about. They showed the blueprint of where they wanted to build the different villages because the Olympics cover a big, massive area. You
Yeah.
got the swimming in one area. You got aquatics over. I mean, swimming over here. Archery 45 miles away somewhere else. Like it's a
Mhm.
big thing. It's not all just confined right there. And all the different camps and the villages that they were building around this, they were showing the blueprints, but that's where everything already had there. And one of the developers, what he said was, we can't build a city on a city that already exists.
Mhm.
So this stuff got to go so that we could play the groundwork and I believe it was the mayor or somebody in one of the press conferences. He didn't say that it was intentional. He said, but when we recover, we're going to see Los Angeles 2.0.
Oh, the
Now,
governor said that. He said
it was
that
the
a
governor.
couple of days ago. It
It was
was
the
the
governor.
Newsom said that. I
Yeah,
watched the interview.
yeah.
It
I
matter of
was
fact, it was on a podcast. He was on a podcast out there.
and he said it's going to be 2.0. Now we just talking about 3 years removed from them getting Olympics. And I always try to tell people, like you say, it's different when you experience something in real time. I remember when I was working at the airlines in '94, we would go to at one point we would go to Atlanta once a week in the winter months because that's you got all the HBCUs there, and every weekend somebody else was having a different homecoming. When
Yeah.
Atlanta got the bid for the Olympics in '96,
Yeah.
Atlanta was a totally different city
Oh
than
yeah.
that we
Uh-huh.
know now. You see what I'm saying? But when you got that Olympic money, they brought the martyr in and they brought all this different stuff, building
Oh
all these.
yeah, that Centennial Park, all that stuff. Yeah.
Atlanta was a whole different city pre-Olympics. So you
Yeah.
can only imagine, and it just go to show you, we don't care how much money you got, who you are, and it's like you said earlier. I do have empathy for some of these people, but I'm like, I don't have more empathy before you because you're one of my favorite actors or you're one of my favorite actresses. Because I grew up in a city called Newark, New Jersey, and I've seen
Mhm.
people be displaced my whole entire life, not because of some fires. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You wasn't having no telethons and all that kind of stuff to help us raise money to change things in our community. But now all of a sudden you want everybody to have mercy on you and because you lost everything. Like Where was that at then? Like you said, like I always talk about, what was it? Almost 8, 10 years ago. How are we doing all this stuff for overseas, and these people can't even get good drinking water in Flint, Michigan?
Yeah, and this is the thing about Flint, Michigan. What a lot of people don't understand, the reason why the water ended up like it was because the local politicians in that municipality, they tried to take money. So
Mm-hmm.
they tried to cut a lot of corners. So instead of putting, taking out all those lead pipes and all that and putting
Like
in
they
the
were
proper
supposed
stuff,
to. Yeah.
they basically just routed stuff from the river, and built a cheaper filter system
Mm-hmm.
onto that, so they could save, so they could put in their pockets part of that $70 million. That's what happened with Flint, and the problem is nobody held people accountable because some of the council people, they got reelected 2 and 3 more times after that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's one thing, and I tell folks, we have to get to a point to where we stop making excuses for the politician. Oh, they knew, they just started. You got to give them a chance. Well, I'm like, well, didn't you say they was qualified?
Uh-huh.
Like when you qualified, you don't stick a toe in. You ready to jump in. And so that's the thing. I'm like, we got to stop making excuses. Oh, well, when I hear somebody talking, they say, um, um, I'm sitting here like, didn't you go to college for communications? Like, come on, like, it's not an excuse. Oh, well, she the first this or he's the first. You perform. And if we know anything of what is called black excellence, we have to do everything twice as good
Mm-hmm.
to almost be even with others. You don't receive black excellence by getting excused for doing stuff,
Mm-hmm.
or people making excuses for you. People don't have to say, "Oh, you the most qualified," or "Oh yeah, you know how to manage this," or "They know how to do this." People should already know.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I think why we're in our situation. Like when they started buying up property, like St. Aug here in Raleigh, North Carolina.
That broke my heart. Dorothea Dix and all that did.
But what did they say about Dorothea Dix when they first did it? The mayor, she got elected, got a $450,000 job by the company that she awarded the first contract to.
Mm-hmm.
And what she say, Dorothea Dix, oh, we want to put affordable housing in there and equitable housing. That's the word, equitable.
Mm-hmm.
And I asked somebody, I said, what's the difference between equity and equitable? I mean, equality and equity and equality. What's the difference? I say equality is being on the same level.
Equal.
Everybody got an even playing field. Equity is just the appearance.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we're gonna hire these 12 people, open this office. They hire one of their boys or one of their girls to head that office, put money in their pocket. Okay, we did this study on reparations. Okay, so we're doing, because it's all about equity, and nothing gets done. That's the difference between equity and equality. Equity does nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Equality is all Martin Luther King wanted. He didn't want the hand up. He just wanted the equal playing field.
Yep.
So that's what I tell folks. So when we look at St. Aug, there was one of my friends had a house over there. He's in Florida now. But when he was over there, Indian lady came up to knocked on the door, and it was his grandmother's house. House was paid off. Now it was a little ran, it needed some repairs. Now the lady offered him $40,000. Had it right there, had a check, $40,000. She's like, "Oh, you can put this money down on another home, and you don't have to worry about going to Home Depot and fixing and all this stuff." Well, guess what? He was like, "You know what? I am tired of going to Home Depot." So he took that 40K and put it down on a house where he was paying, I think, 1350 a month for, he got a mortgage.
Mhm.
When me and him rode through there before he made the final move to Florida, me and him rode through the neighborhood, and his neighbor was packing up, and he was like, "Oh, you finally sold?" And she's like, "Yeah, that Indian lady, she knocked on my door, a few days after she hit you up." And he was like, "Oh man, so you got some good money." She was like, "How much did you get?" And he's like, "I got 40, 45." She's like, "Oh, you took the first offer."
Uh-huh.
He got 185K.
Wow.
Now the house is knocked down. In that place right now is a $950,000 home. Look at the location of St. Aug, and
Mhm.
look at what St. Aug just did. They just levied as collateral 20 acre 20 acres of their property for like 20% interest. That is like you just asking to give your property away.
Yeah.
And that's historic. That location right there is amazing.
Mhm.
But I tell people when it comes to like St. Aug, when it comes to Shaw, they better hop on board like Fayetteville State did, like Winston-Salem State did, NC Central, A&T, um, because once those schools became public schools, look how NCCU is growing. Look how A&T is growing. You go down to Fayetteville and look at dang on Fayetteville State. Man, back when I was at Fort Bragg, I went out there to Fayetteville State.
That was
It
so
was like the straight. I'm like, is this the project? Say that? No, these are the dorm. It had chain link fences on
mhm.
the floor. I'm sitting here like, this
Barbed
look like
wire.
a straight up. Yeah, this look like I'm in Baltimore on an episode of The Wire. I'm sitting there like, now you go back, artificial turf on the football field, stadium. You look how Central, Winston-Salem State, the only private school that needs help, in my eyes, HBCUs, is Bennett College.
Mhm.
Because them young women that go to Bennett College, they're competing against A&T,
Mhm.
UNCG,
GG, yeah. They all right.
University of Greensboro,
Mhm.
um, High Point, Elon. They're competing against all of
Mhm.
those pools. But to me, Bennett teaches values. I think that's what's so special about that. For when a woman becomes a Bennett Bell and stuff, they learn those values.
Mhm.
So, but they're doing it. They need the money because all the big schools is pulling kids away from them.
Exactly.
So I just think, Shaw, they better become public soon under the UNC school system. St. Aug, they better do that, but they don't want to open up the books.
And that there goes that and lies the problem. Dion was dealing with the same thing down there in Jackson. Like, yo, I'm gonna
Yeah.
spend my own money for y'all to come in here and know this. We ain't saying y'all doing nothing wrong, but let's show us how we spend.
Yeah.
Like you said, let's eliminate this mismanagement because with all of the alumni and the boosters that we got, we're generating money, but we got leaks in our locker room and everything else. So we need to
Yeah.
see the books to know where this money is going because the show ain't going to where it's supposed to be going. It's not going for better desks. It's not going toward the dorms. It's not going toward the field. So just show us the books. Now you overstepping. Now you overstepping. Deion said, okay, you know what? No problem. I done went
Yeah.
when the city was messed up in the water. I went in my own pocket to do all of that. Did you know what? I done gave back. I done redid the
Mhm.
field. This is my gift to y'all. I'm taking my behind, and my service is up here to Colorado.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I'm still, even though y'all might be mad at me, don't understand why I left. I'm leaving you in a better situation than what you was in when I first got here.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? So it's so many different layers to it. But you made some good points, and it's like you said, when it comes to Bennett, you can ride right past Bennett College and don't even realize that was even a college
Mhm.
because it's not like everything else. Like you said, A and T, A and
Yeah.
T, like A and T is expanding every time I go past there. Is more and more stuff built on and added on.
Yeah. I
So
mean, Central got so much federal money now. When they became a state school, They bought a dang on Catholic church and put a law school in its place. They gave the Catholic Church like $60 million.
Wow.
And the leadership of that Catholic Church is like, well, we can build with 60 million. I mean, we know this is our home, but
Mhm.
for 60 million, we'll make another home.
Yeah.
So they didn't care.
Let me get
Like,
that.
but it was a Catholic church. They not gonna be undercut.
Hmm.
If it's a Baptist church, just AME Zion, oh, we'll give you $10 million. Like,
And you better take that 10 million before we come in here and take you.
yeah, we know some people on the board. We can do
Exactly.
eminent domain, if you
Uh-huh.
want to be stingy. So that's the thing right there is like we just have to start as a community, start mobilizing. We have to stop when it comes to certain things, stop allowing other people, to gaslight us.
Mhm.
We have to think with reason. That's why I think, black men and black women work like yin and yang together because men are supposed to have more reason,
Mhm.
reasoning ability. Not saying that women don't, it's just a different type,
Mhm.
and I think we work in tandem perfect. Men and women work in tandem. So I just think once we start grasping those things and start going back to like certain values, I
Basic.
think things will get better. We just gotta start getting more discipline, as a community. So
Yeah. That's how we'll see real change, man.
yeah.
Yeah, man. That's all I pretty much had. Did you have anything else?
Oh no, I always enjoy tuning in to when you on here.
Yeah.
You always and you always enthused, to just talk and spread info, and you always have good dialogue and stuff. So, I just appreciate you inviting me.
Yeah, no doubt, man. And tell the viewers that's still watching, tell them how they could tune into you guys' show on Thursday nights.
Well, we don't do ours live like this. It's pre-recorded.
Hmm.
So what's released this week is something that we filmed or recorded about 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
So we're normally about 2 weeks. So we basically do it like seasons.
Okay, gotcha.
So we want to have like 20 episodes in the season,
And then
you
just
know. So
upload.
so it's almost like watching, a sitcom. You
Hmm.
you know you watch about 15 minutes, then they'll cut off. The next week another piece will be released.
Gotcha.
But if you go to like Starman Films, you'll see it. You type in YouTube like Hawthorne James, Sam Blue, Sergio Fitz, Sergio Fevers, it'll come up in the search definitely. So it's definitely, just good dialogue, just like this. Sometimes we talk a little bit more about like policy stuff, but all of my stuff will always tend to be surrounded around, you know, the resources for the community. I feel that's my part of the podcast. I
Mhm.
talk about how we can utilize some stuff. Like when Biden was in, there's some stuff I'm like, okay, I don't like this, but we can use this to come
Mhm.
up. When Trump, I listened to that dang on speech during his inauguration. I was like, okay, we can use this. Let's make sure we plan on this here. So it's all about strategy. So I just want people to know how to look for it themselves because, you look at these young men out here, I'm talking about like under 18,
Mhm.
you can ask them when the next Jordan's coming out
Oh, they
and what style, what colorway. And them jokers say, well, on January 7th,
yeah.
the Oreo fours, oh yeah, but on April 1st, the April Fool fives,
I'm
and I'm
already on
like,
the check on the waiting list.
yeah, so they could just like how they can research that, they can resource scholarships and grants for college or for a business.
Mhm.
It's not that it's not there for everybody else. It's just not everybody priority. And
Mhm.
what we need to do as black men, that's what I feel is we need to empower them and motivate them to want to look at those things. That's
Mhm.
why I feel, I don't sit here and act like I'm better than nobody else. Like I said, I stay in a glass house, so how can I throw stones?
Mhm.
But I think we need to empower our boys. We need to stop trying to say, well, let's do this and we're voting for y'all to do that. We have to take the initiative and do it ourselves.
Mhm.
But at the same time, when it comes to these young boys, we need the help of a lot of these mothers, especially the single mothers, because if I say something to your young man when he out of line and I don't put my hands on him, but I say something to him, hey, youngster, you need to be a little bit more respectful when you talk to that elderly man. And then
Mhm.
he goes home, and then the mother comes out, don't you talk to my boy. If you got a problem with him, you talk to me and I'll talk to him. We always talk about having the village. Well, the
Mhm.
village is gone
Yeah.
because every time somebody from the village tries to say something, what happens? Oh,
Mhm.
don't say nothing to my boy. I'm his mama. It's a partnership. And I tell, single mothers all the time, when there's a man that's like trying to mentor your son, it
Let
don't matter if you like him or not.
yeah, let him.
Let him do that.
Mhm.
I was talking to one lady and she was like, well, I don't even like him like that. I'm like, we ain't talking about you. We talking about your son.
Exactly.
But she thinking about, is that somebody I can marry him? Nothing is wrong. I think that's what a lot of our boys, why they didn't fall to the wayside. And of course, we ain't perfect,
Mhm.
but we kept them jokers busy. Because what happens to boys when they get bored? They do dumb stuff.
Exactly.
So we keep them jokers in the gym. We keep them involved in the community. We,
Football, church,
you know what I'm saying?
we do
Like
everything.
everything. And people ask me, like, what was your secret? I said, that was our secret. We can't By the time he got home from Millbrook, that joker was laid out
Yeah,
tired.
exactly. You ain't got enough energy to do that though.
I said that's the key. So
Mhm.
when this for the mothers out there, when your son asks you, hey, I want to play football, I want to play basketball,
Mhm.
don't be like, no, I don't want you to get hurt. Come on now. I remember growing up jumping off the branch of a tree,
Mhm.
like
Yeah,
doing backflips in the alleys, on them old box springs. So
yeah.
it's like one of those things that we just have to start. Ain't nothing wrong with a broken arm. It's
Mhm.
life. It's gonna heal up. Turning the ankle, from wearing Chuck Taylors versus right shoes, so it just needs to be a community partnership. And then that right there will bring the village back.
Yeah. I totally agree. I totally agree. Cause like what's the byproduct of y'all being the best friend instead of just the mom, but you're gonna be the best friend and don't talk to my kid all I did. What are we doing? We raising a whole generation of soft suckers. Like I'm gonna say
Mhm.
it just like it is. That's why we so soft. These kids are so soft. Always say, God forbid if we actually had to physically fight a war these days. It's hard to do that because you got to get on the battlefield. You can't do it with your thumbs. And
Yeah.
these kids is like, but it's like you say, don't say nothing to my child. And we got to get back to that because listen, boy, we used to hear the story, especially in the 70s and the 80s. Man, I might get 3 beatings before my mom and dad got home.
Mhm.
Guess what? We ain't see as much uh breaking and entering and all that did because the hood gonna see it. When you in the hood, oh, you know who broke in that house.
Yeah.
If Miss Johnson or whoever else sitting on their porch across the street or down the
Yeah.
block, hey, go. He right over there.
Yeah.
We got to get, like you said, we got to take more pride in our sense of community and being involved with one another. That's one of the reasons that I actually enjoyed coaching Pop Warner for the Cap City Steelers was because it's like so many times, like you say, a lot of these single moms, it's like, oh my God, they would come to us after games from time to time, and you know what?
Mhm.
I really, really, I really want to thank you. They'll pull us to the side. They won't say it in front of the little boy, but the way that you're tough on him and the way that you're hard on him is resonating because he like, I don't want to let Coach Marv down. I don't want to let Coach Black down. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? These different things. So we're not trying to hold their hand. We're just trying to raise these young men to be better men. You know what I mean? And then
Yeah.
what you do is you pay it forward. it's crazy to see so many of the players that we had coaching to go back. They actually coaching now themselves.
Yeah.
Like that's a beautiful thing to me. Like, let me know when you got a game so I can come out and support you and see what your coaching style is and different
Yeah.
things of that nature there. But it was sticking. You were paying attention. Like we said earlier.
Yeah.
I didn't realize you was watching, and I thought you thought I didn't like you. But no, I tell people all the time, especially as an athlete, is listen, don't worry about why you always picking on me. Like AI always tell that story. Right?
Mhm.
He picking on me. He doing this. He doing that. There. Listen, as a former athlete, I tell people all the time, don't work. That means you're doing the right thing if your coach is always riding you. What you need to
Mhm.
be worried about is when your coach don't say nothing to you.
Yeah. If they don't say nothing to you, they know you ain't no better.
That's it.
When my son went to college, he talked about how the coach cussed him out. He's like, and he was excited because I told him when the coach is on you,
Mm-hmm.
that means they hold you to a higher standard and
Exactly.
they have higher expectations. I said, so if he's quiet, that means he don't have much of an expectation.
Mm-hmm.
Boy, that joker called after his first walkthrough practice when and he was like, "Oh, I was cussed out almost the whole day." Like,
Exactly.
like I taught him not to be offended by that,
Mm-hmm.
but to allow it to motivate him to get better.
Yeah.
Now you have all these dang on prima donnas, you
Oh,
know,
yeah.
you got a kid walking up, well, I want to be a safety. Okay, well, where's safety at? Well, don't I get like right next to the quarterback? Like it's like, everybody when they get into basketball, everybody want their kid to be the point guard.
Exactly.
Well,
But you
all the
can't
kids going to band.
work.
Every parent want their kids to play the drums, and they come home with a clarinet and they upset. But I'm like, just make sure your son is happy.
Yeah,
Like but
I posted one like that the other day. That we gonna get out of here. I posted one like that the other day. I seen it on TikTok. I shared it on my Facebook page. But they probably look about maybe between the 7 and 9 age group, and they out there trying out. It's the first day of practice. Coach asked the little boy, he said, what position do you want to play? The little boy say safety. He said, why you want to be a safety? He said, because it sounds safe. And everybody started laughing. It's like, son, go sign that boy up for mama. Go sign that boy up for chess or the swim team immediately. Because safety
yeah.
is not the safest position out there on that field. So this might not be your sport, son. But I just thought it was so funny. My man, he was dead serious. He said, because it sounds safe.
Yeah,
But yeah,
yeah.
man, I appreciate you, man. Thanks for hanging out with me
No, I
tonight, man.
appreciate you.
No doubt, man. I'm hoping everybody enjoy the rest of their week. Like I say, try to stay warm, avoid this traffic and these roads as much as you can, because this black ice is real and accidents are happening and these temperatures. We just got to ride it out. So I hope everybody got everything that they need, and staying safe as possible. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. I appreciate you guys, and we're gonna look forward to seeing you guys next week, man. But in the meantime, until then, DeAndre and Elisha, know that Daddy loves you intentionally, but I also love you unconditionally. Till next week, peace.